Hey, you beautiful souls. Everybody says, just be yourself. But one, nobody tells us how to do that. And two, in a world that is full of insincerity and people putting on facades, we don't really have examples of what it's like when we start to be who our sincere self is. So today I'm going to share with you a little bit about what changed in my life when I started to embrace prioritizing being my true and authentic self. So to anybody who's never been here before, hi, my name's Elizabeth Blackwell, and I spent well over a decade of my life so that I can help others set sacred space and find their highest and greatest selves. So let's get into this conversation about the good, the bad, and the wildly beautiful when I started to prioritize being my true and authentic self. So I will admit that I am a little bit nervous. I have dedicated my life to sharing the lessons that I have learned along this journey as I have developed into my higher self. But I don't tend to put it all out there. That even though I will answer questions that anybody has of me in a very sincere way, this is kind of the definition of putting it all out there. So I guess we'll see how it goes. So I'm going to give you guys just a very brief history so that you can kind of know where I'm coming from. But I started what I call my journey about 15 years ago. And it started with a near-death experience. If you're curious what it is, I give this story in the video, Meditation Saved My Life. And I'll link it in a card above and in the description box down below. But it wasn't until a few years later to when I started working on healing myself. And as I worked on healing myself, one of the first things that I discovered is I don't know who I really am. So as I went through my journey and started to discover who my true and authentic self was, I got excited about it. But yet I was still living in a situation and a life where I couldn't necessarily be that on a day-to-day basis. So it wasn't until about 2 years ago to where I made the decision, nope, I'm done. I am going to be my true and authentic self, no matter where I am or who I am in front of. And so that is really what I am sharing with you today. The changes that I started to see within my life when I made that decision that no matter where I was or who I was in front of, that I was going to embrace who I really was. So then I'm also going to share here in this video, I am sharing more my specific story of what changed as I started to embrace my authentic self. In my next video, I am actually going to give you some tangible ways that you can work on to know who your true and authentic self is. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you're subscribed and keep an eye out for that video. And also, if you're getting some benefit out of this, consider hitting that like button because it really does help out small channels like this. One of the first changes that I'm going to share with you here today were some of the emotional changes that I went through. At first, I was very scared. I was terrified of how I would be received by the people in my life when I started being my authentic self. One of the things that I used to do a lot is my brain works pretty quickly, and I would always be about 5 to 10 seconds ahead in a conversation. And so I would filter my words based upon who was in front of me. But then it became such a huge emotional relief when I told myself that I was going to no longer do that no matter who was in front of me, that I was just going to speak whatever my truth was. And it allowed me to take a breath and have some relief, because it freed up this energy that I didn't have to think ahead anymore. It was just being who I was at the time. So one of the other areas that I saw huge changes in was my professional life. Now, I've owned my shop where I make holistic health and spiritual home and body products for about 7 years now. And I had taught on stage at expos and things like that for about 5 years. But when I started to embrace my authenticity, it allowed me to know that one of my big goals was for teaching and public speaking. And so then, as I put those goals on my list, it allowed me to take the steps towards it. So many people that would not be necessarily supportive of that being my career. So I was my own cheerleader, and I didn't attach to necessarily what they thought that I should do. But I allowed myself to be my own support and take those steps towards building what I authentically wanted to do with my life and as huge parts of my fulfillment. And then the other area that I saw huge changes as I embraced who I authentically was within my relationships. Now, I am going to be real with you here. Not everybody is going to embrace you being your open and authentic self. There will be individuals in your life who will try to put you back in the box that they feel most comfortable with you in. But when you don't attach to it, and that was another one of my big lessons of it was, I'm not going to attach to this. This has nothing to do with me because I'm embracing who I really am. This is about them. It then allows them to make the choice of whether they wish to come along with you on your journey or if they wish to step out of your life. And yes, you may lose individuals as you embrace your sincerity, but in the end, it won't be a bad thing. It will lighten the load and allow you to be yourself in a freer way. But then one of the most beautiful things that I experienced was that the individuals who I knew, as I was more open and authentic with them, that gave them space to be more authentic with me. And it gave us deeper connection with each other. And then this also attracted new people into my life that they've only ever known me as this authentic version of myself. And so again, we could have sincere connection because I am who I am and I now put it out for the world to see. So it allowed for much deeper and richer connections within relationships. That yes, I had to let go of certain individuals, but it strengthened my true relationships so much more deeply. And one of the other areas that I saw huge changes in was my mental health. This freed me up to be who I was, no matter where I was. When I stopped putting myself into boxes based upon where I was or who was in front of me, it allowed me to take a breath. And it gave me much more energy to put towards the things that were truly important to me. Because it's draining to try to fit in or figure out what the norm is. My joke is that normal people are boring, and I've never figured out what it was anyways, so I just stopped trying. But it allowed me to make huge mental health strides for myself. Just embracing who I was, as simple as that sounds. Now, this is simple, not necessarily easy to do, but it gave me huge relief in a mental health way as I started to embrace my authentic self. This video wouldn't be complete, and I wouldn't feel as if I'm being authentic with you if I didn't tell you some of the challenges that I went through on this journey to embrace my authentic self. As I mentioned before, people had to decide if they were going to embrace who I was or leave my life. And I've lost individuals because of it. And as you start to discover who you really are, again, not all of it is going to be pretty. I had to look at some of my very wounded aspects and start to work on those things. So there will absolutely be challenges along your journey as you discover who you truly are in your sincere self. But let me just say, it's absolutely worth it. It has brought beauty into my life that I would have never even thought of had I not embraced my sincerity. As I shared earlier, my next video is going to be about how you can discover who your sincere and authentic self. Some questions you can ask yourself and ways you can work towards your sincerity. If this video has been of service to you, I ask that you please hit the like button because it really does help out small channels like this. And if you resonate here or with these messages that I'm putting out, please consider subscribing as well, because I am all about sharing the lessons that I have learned along my journey. Most of them aren't quite this personal. I'm also going to link some other videos that may help you out along your journey. So with that, I will say that I am sending you all so much light and love, and I hope you all stay well, my friends.